We'll get everything all sorted out. All right, Hernan, you got it all figured out? All right, you're good. Hello, Hernan. Welcome to the program. Come on in. Join us, will you?
Well, it keeps saying that we have no, that we're muted, but on my end, we're not muted.
Not muted.
No, so
Okay.
I got to continue figuring this out.
All right, you figure that out. We'll keep it going. All right, text us, 780-218-9999. The Oilers coming off a win, of course, over Nashville, and then the Flames, a win over New Jersey. Did you figure it out?
Yeah, now they're saying it's coming through, so
Very
I
good.
have no idea, man.
Oh,
See, I
boy.
spoke too soon, Tom. I told you. Go behind the scenes and what I told you right before we were about to go on air.
I don't want to repeat that. All right. Like I mentioned, if you didn't catch it or if the audio wasn't there, we've got Pat Steinberg joining us a little bit later on, Matt Cassian in a few minutes. And it is the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Gazzalo and Salas with you. Did you have a fun night last night? What's going on? You all right? You okay?
Fine.
Where are you? Are you there? Can we see you?
I'm not on the camera because I'm really dark right now, so I might have to turn on these lights here, Tommy.
Okay. You know what we should do is get a light for there. We have a bunch of lights that we need to use.
So let me see if that works. Let me see how that affects you and then how it affects
You do you over there. GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to ejectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. She's bright in here, Hernan. Very bright. There you are. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm
You're
good.
all right.
Yeah, just some audio troubles to start. I'll be honest. I still don't know what happened, but yeah, we're here. We're rolling.
There you go. I'll move over here to make it centered. For the Oilers tonight, as we get into starting lineups for both teams, same group that got the win the other night in Nashville. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins between Jeff Skinner and Zach Hyman. Leon Draisaitl with Vasily Podkolzin and Victor Arvidsson, and then Adam Henrique with Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown. Noah Philp, who had a big NHL debut, picking up his first point with Drake Caggiula and Corey Perry flanking him. On defense, you've got Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Dermott, Kulak with Emberson, Troy Stetcher, Derek Ryan remain out. As for the Calgary Flames, here's what we're anticipating tonight, Hernan Salas and everybody else out there. Nazem Kadri between Connor Zary and Martin Pospisil. Michael Backlund, who just celebrated his 1,000th game between Blake Coleman and Matt Coronado. Yegor Sharangovich with Jonathan Huberdeau and Anthony Mantha. And then you've got Kevin Rooney with Ryan Lomberg and Andrei Kuzmenko. On defense for the Flames, Kevin Ball with Rasmus Anderson. Mackenzie Weegar with Daniel Miramanov. Tyson Barrie, the former Oiler, with Braden Pahal. Out for Calgary tonight, Justin Kirkland, Jake Bean, and Joel Hanley. That brings us now to starting goalies for the Edmonton Oilers. Just turned 26 years of age. It is Stuart Skinner. He's 2-4-1 this season with a .351 goals against average, .872 save percentage, one shutout in the 7 games he's played this season. Skinner versus the Flames, 4-2 record, .207 GAA, .939 save percentage, and that is indeed in 7 appearances versus Calgary. At the other end of the rink, it will be 27-year-old Dan Vladar, 3-2-1 this year, .265 goals against average, .909 save percentage, one shutout in the 6 games he has played. Vladar versus the Oilers, pretty good. 3-1 record, .226 goals against average, .926 save percentage in 4 appearances versus the Flames. Anything to you about those lineups stick out? I mean, pretty straightforward from an Oilers point of view. From Calgary's view, they got the win against New Jersey the other night, an impressive 3-0 win, and I don't know if you'd change anything there.
I don't know. Like, I was watching that Calgary game. I wouldn't, and like, you're the sharpest hockey guy I know, Tom, but
thank
I
you.
would never take anything away from you.
Checks in the mail.
I don't think Calgary was sharp in that game, because they got the first one with about 6 minutes left, and then New Jersey kind of pushed, and they got a couple breaks here and there, and it was 3-0 like that, right? So. And they stopped kind of the bleeding. They were on I think 4-game losing streak at that point. But for the Oilers, yeah, of course, you're not changing anything from that team that we saw on Thursday. Was it Thursday, Tom?
Yep.
Yeah, and they looked excellent, right? So why would you think, outside of changing the goaltender, it's the same D pairings, all that. So I look at these two rosters. Calgary's always going to bring it against the Oilers. They did in game one. But for me, it's the Edmonton Oilers. Remember what happened in that first game.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, 97's out, Tommy, but this team is still better than the Flames on paper. But you got to show up. You got to put in an effort. And if you can get an effort like you did against Nashville, a start like that. Now, a few things have to be sorted out. PK needs to improve 100%. The power play needs to improve.
Awful.
So we'll see what happens tonight. I'm a little, I wouldn't say worried, but there's a good question here on the nasty chat.
What is it?
It says, give me a sec here. What would it mean to lose to Calgary tonight from some stranger? And I think that's a good question. Like, because this team, they look good, and then they play 2 bad games, Tom. So
Yes.
for me, it's one of those things that I think a loss tonight is another 2 steps back for this team.
I think it's been a Jekyll and Hyde start to the season.
Yeah.
I feel like they have been better in the last 5 or 6 games. The 0-3 start was disturbing, but I think they've been able to clean it up to a certain extent. That loss on Monday was awful. I still stand by my thought where I think their head was in Nashville when the game that night was in Columbus. They go out there and they lay an egg. They get to Nashville, probably blow off some steam, and then go out and absolutely dominate a Predators club that had points. I think, what was it? They had won 3 of their last 4. They had points in 4 straight, and they went in there and they just took the game right off the bat in the first shift, 37 seconds in with that Arvidsson goal. The Draisaitl line was dominant. I'd like to see more from the Hyman, Nugent-Hopkins, Skinner combination. Maybe tonight against the Flames we see a little bit more spark, but it'd be good to see them support the Draisaitl line, and that's expecting the Draisaitl line to continue to assert dominance, tilt the ice, dominate the shot share, create a lot of great opportunities, and hopefully, if you're an Oiler fan, that leads to goals as well. So, to a lesser extent, too, even that third line with Henrique, Janmark, and Brown, those are guys I think that while McDavid continues to heal up his ankle, I think it'd be nice to see them chip in offensively as well. It's good that they've been responsible for the most part defensively, but you need some more offense. 1 point from Brown, 1 point from Henrique. Janmark, more bad than good so far this year from him. Bad penalties, miscues, and things like that. So lines 2 and 3, because I'm going to obviously make the Draisaitl line number 1 for the Oilers. But lines 2 and 3, I'd like to see a little bit more from those 2 lines tonight. Okay, we're going to get to Matt Cassian and Game Changers right away. Of course, we would like to hear from you, 780-218-9999, and get into the Nasty Chat. If you're watching on YouTube, Nasty Chat's for you. You can also text us, too. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, audio stream, as well as Apple Music, text us, 780-218-9999. Hernan Salas, do you want to throw out the question of the night? Do you have a question of the night?
I do.
Oh, excellent. Please.
And it's very similar because I think we talked about it last game as well. It's just after seeing the Oilers are 5-5-1 to start.
Yes.
Okay.
Calgary 6-4-1, by the way, for those that just need a quick refresher.
So the question is, it's just a simple one, Tom. Are the Oilers, let's put it this way, are the Oilers back? Like, is October and the hangover and all that stuff behind them, now we're going to start seeing the real Edmonton Oilers that we saw on Thursday night, right? Like, because we got a lot of questions last post-game show, are they back? And we were like, well, we don't know if they're back just yet because we've seen this before. So are they back? Or are they going to take another 2 steps back tonight?
Good question. Let us know your thoughts to Hernan's question of the night. And Cass is ready to go. Let's bring him in on this too, Hernan. I want to hear what he has to say. I will give them the benefit of the doubt because, like I mentioned earlier, they have been playing better, getting better results after that sluggish 0-3 start. When they've lost games, I mean, they get their asses kicked by Columbus. I didn't like that. To me, that was a couple steps back, but they totally redeemed themselves. I will say that we're starting to see them come out of that fog, malaise, hangover, whatever you want to call it. I think we're starting to see that, and it took a couple of smacks.
Smacks.
From some opponents you wouldn't expect it. Yeah, a couple of smacks And maybe it's finally shaken them loose and awoken them, and they can go on and be a good team the rest of the way. We could say this, too, because after the start that they had last year, they're way ahead of that, and they managed to put together a really good season. So I'll say, yeah, I think we're starting to see the Edmonton Oilers show signs of the real Oilers team, even though McDavid's out. What say you? Text us 780-218-9999 and the nasty chat as we roll on here, and welcome in our game analyst, Matt Cassian. Cass, you heard the question of the night. What would you say to that and what Hernan brought up?
Yeah. I want to see like 3 or 4 more games here, guys. Like I want to see 3 or 4 games. I want to see some more consistency before I'm ready to say that. So yeah, I look at this here and I kind of go, we've seen some moments that have been better. You know, we saw the Pittsburgh game better. We saw the Nashville game better. But as you mentioned too, we saw the Columbus game where it wasn't very good at all. So I don't think we've seen all that this team is yet, but I feel like the jury's still out on it. Like jury is still out on this team. You know, if they can string together 4 or 5 games of consistency, maybe then I'll be ready to say, you know what, this is who this team is going to be. This is what they're capable of. But I'm not ready to say that yet. I feel like there's just been too many inconsistencies early in the season.
There have been a lot of those. That's a fair point. All right, text us your thoughts, 780-218-9999, and get into the nasty chat. Nanso, do you want to throw out the question one more time for our listeners if they're just joining us?
Yeah. Are the Oilers back?
Are they back?
Is the hangover done with? No more excuses. Are they back?
Ooh, all right. Share your thoughts. And I saw some questions coming in already that I will bounce off of Cass as we get to Game Changers with Matt Cassian, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting, RE/MAX Elite. Damon Bunting, consistent top producing realtor in Greater Edmonton and among Western Canadian RE/MAX realtors. Of course, he and his team would love to help you find the right home or make the move from your current home. So check them out, DamonBunting.com, or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Cass having a little fun with Game Changers tonight, and I like it. Number 1, straightforward. Number 2, fun. Number 3, straightforward. But number 1, Cass, Flames forecheck.
Yeah, it's coming tonight. The Flames had a huge win on Friday against the New Jersey Devils, and they did it by smothering them. They played a really physical game. They played a fast game, and they eliminated New Jersey's ability to have time and space. Jersey has guys that are offensive. They move the puck quite well now. And from the Calgary Flames, they played a game that was just simple and it was hard. Like it was, I don't want to say it was just overly physical because it wasn't like they were just running New Jersey over, but they played a simplified, difficult to play against game where New Jersey didn't have any time or space. That's what's going to be facing Edmonton tonight. And Calgary has been a team, and they've had their own inconsistencies to start the year. Really good off the start of the year. Then they dropped a bunch of games, and they just had the big win against Jersey. You know what? They are going to be bringing it today, Tommy, against their provincial rivals and division rivals. I expect that we're going to see a high tempo game from them, and one where Huska has his team. Just trying to take away Edmonton's time and space. The defense for the Edmonton Oilers are going to have to do a good job of moving the puck, transitioning it quickly up ice, and not making big mistakes.
All right, there you go. Number 1, Flames forecheck on Game Changers. Number 2, Cass, here's where we get a little bit silly, but in a good way. I like it. Even more ongoing special teams because they are still last place in the league.
Yeah. Still last place in the league. Your penalty kill, your power play, still not great. And for the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, like they haven't been great for the Calgary Flames either. But for Edmonton, Tommy, listen, you have to start turning these things around at some point. You have to start finding a way to score on the power play, and you have to find a way to kill off some of these penalties in critical moments. Thus far, we haven't seen anything close to being good enough from the power play or from the penalty kill for the Edmonton Oilers. Tom, you know what? There should be no excuses. You're more than 10 games in, and you still have the worst penalty killing, and you still have the worst power play. Not the worst power play in the league, but
pretty
worst
close.
Penalty killing league, and one of the worst power plays in the league as of right now. You have to find a way to turn it around. And Calgary's not much better. they've struggled quite a bit too. So two teams that are both going to be looking for that special teams advantage today.
The Oilers' power play thus far this season, 4 for 30, 27th in the NHL, 13.3% heading into action today. And then the penalty kill, 32nd in the NHL, so it is dead last still, 62.5%, and that's through 11 games. That is not good. Like if you're Glenn Gulletson and working with the power play cast and you're Mark Stewart and you're working with the PK, what are you saying to these guys? Because it's just been atrocious right out of the gate.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, you're saying do your freaking job. That's what you're saying, particularly on the penalty kill. You have guys that have pretty consistently been trying to make up for one another. They've been trying to do someone else's job. It's been very disjointed and discombobulated, to use that word, where
Mm-hmm.
and I'll use an example, and it was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It was the culprit from a couple games ago, where he just, for no reason, they're kind of in a semi-pressure situation, and he's the net front forward, and all of a sudden he pushes to the half wall to try to cut a play off, and you're kind of like, well, wait a second, that's not really where you're supposed to go and not really your guy. But he goes, and then all of a sudden, the other forward's trying to scramble back and they don't get the puck, and all of a sudden the puck's in the back of your net because you're stuck 4 on the wall when you shouldn't have been. So I mean, just be better is on the penalty kill. Don't do dumb things on the penalty kill. On the power play, it's just execute that PP1. It's just execute. Actually put pucks on sticks. Actually make plays where someone's not having to catch it, and settle the puck down and stop it from spinning and stop it from rolling before they're able to make a play. Like if you execute and actually move the puck like you're capable of, well, yeah, they're fully capable of getting back to being the excellent power play that we know they can be, and it is right there. It's just they haven't executed. They need to find a way to do it better.
It is Game Changers with Matt Cassian, brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Remax Elite here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Number 1 was Flames forecheck. Number 2, even more ongoing special teams because they are still last place in the league. Number 3, Cass, Podkolzin.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, we've started to talk about this guy more and more and more, in that he is getting an opportunity. And he has seemingly fit in, or is fitting in well, with Leon Draisaitl and Victor Arvidsson. And I don't want to say he's a catalyst. I'm not ready to say he is the reason that those guys have started to play, but he has found ways to contribute. We see the fight. We see him lay the smack down in a lot of ways. We see him around the net, and really has found a way so far to just be a part of that line. Now, we've only seen little snippets of it still. We haven't seen long extended periods of time or multiple games in a row. We're going to continue to get to see that here tonight. But hey, he found a way to be involved, and to be involved physically, to find his way to the score sheet, as we say. You want to find your way to the score sheet as long as it's not like minuses. Yeah, it's I don't want to say the absolute emergence of a player yet, Tommy, but I still really like what we see. And as I said it before, I'll say it again. He has absolutely been growing on me. I was really uncertain of him at the start of the year. The more we go, the more I've liked his game and what he's done. So, hey, we're going to get another chance to see it here tonight with McDavid out of the lineup. Can he continue to fit in with Draisaitl and with Arvidsson? Can that line find a way to be a top line, and can he regularly contribute?
All right. If you have any questions for Cass or some ideas they want to bounce off of us, text us 780-218-9999. I saw one from Coach Mike I'm going to get to in a second, but I want to ask Cass about the Nugent-Hopkins-Skinner-Hyman line, Henrique, Janmark, and Brown. I said earlier, right before you hopped on, Cass, that I want to see those two lines support the top line with Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson with some offensive punch. Is it there? Could you see it with the Nugent-Hopkins line? In theory, on paper, that looks like a line that should have capable offense. And then the Henrique, Brown, Janmark, that trio really hasn't had much going offensively, even though I suppose we could say they've been respectable defensively.
Yeah. Yeah, they have been respectable defensively. You'd like to see that the Henrique line start to maybe produce a little bit more, generate some more offensive opportunities would be good. The Ryan Nugent Hopkins line. I just had a good conversation with my dad about it, and his buddy Jimmy B, who's always providing feedback, and is always upset about something. Jimmy is always upset about something with the Oilers. He's never, unless they win the cup, he's never satisfied.
He's one of those.
I love Jimmy. Yeah, I love Jimmy, but he was harping on Ryan Nugent Hopkins about how he needs to find a way to drive the line.
Does he know Donnie M?
Him and Donnie M would probably get along real well if he doesn't. And Jimmy B, you know what? Jimmy B is a incredibly smart man, brilliant actually. But he does get frustrated about them Oilers, and right now his frustration is with Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Even after just one game of him really being a centerman, of saying like, "Hey, this guy's a centerman, needs to find his legs again here, needs to find a way to drive the line." And you know, if that top line of Draisaitl is really clicking, then yes, you're kind of comfortable with Ryan Nugent Hopkins just, you know, being even or better. And that line, like, you're okay with that. And same thing with the Henrique line. But, you know, if we look back to that last game against Nashville, what was the fourth line that got them going in a lot of ways? Is that fourth line that found a way to be a little bit of a difference. And you would like to see those other two groups doing a little bit more, particularly if your special teams continue to struggle. So, you know, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, I think, needs to find a way. I think that group in general, you know, they need to find one of the players has to find the ability to transport the puck better. You know, I think Ryan is what I would say is who's carrying the puck through the neutral zone. How are they generating speed through the neutral zone and maintaining possession? I think at times right now there's a little bit of uncertainty around who's doing what and whose responsibility that is, just because it's like you're so used to McDavid and Draisaitl doing it all the time. For Ryan Nugent Hopkins, he's like, wait a second, you mean I might have to skate the puck through the neutral zone? And it's like he has to adjust a little bit.
It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Cassian, as we get you set for the Battle of Alberta, second of three meetings between the Oilers and Flames. The Calgary Flames get the better of the Oilers 4-1 back on October 13th. You'll remember Edmonton got off to a hot start that game, scored early with Jeff Skinner bearing his first as an Oiler, and then they had a couple of goals waved off, and then it kind of deflated from there, and the Flames took over later on in that game. We'll get a little bit more on the Flames from Pat Steinberg from Sportsnet down in Calgary in a little bit. But right now, I'm going to get to some texts. Keep those coming in, 780-218-9999. Let's get Hernan back on here as well. Coach Mike texting in, and I'll start it by going to Cass first, and then we'll get Hernan's thoughts. But Coach Mike says, describe the ideal defensive partner for Nurse. What kind of defenseman does Nurse need for him to be successful moving forward, or is it all on him? And I will just add this. I actually think Darnell Nurse has quietly been one of the steadier defensemen for this team early this season. Cass.
Yeah, I would say that he's actually found a way to be that, where he has been pretty steady. Now, I think, you know, although there have been moments for Evan Bouchard and for Victor Arvidsson where they have struggled, they're still and have been the top guys. But Darnell Nurse is kind of steady. He's been pretty steady, and he's talked about trying to simplify his game. You know, I can't think of. I mean, early in the season, there was a couple moments where it was like, what is he doing? What's going on? But for the most part, I would say the last 3 or 4 games, he's kind of smoothed it out a little bit. Now, from an ideal partner standpoint, Cody Ceci, veteran guy, which is weird to say. And I know it's like, well, and people say all the time, well, what do you mean? Shouldn't he be the guy? And I get that, but you know, regardless of your feelings on Darnell Nurse or what you think about him, I think having someone that is really good at being able to read off of him and has that experience is important. So I'm going to say veteran guy, right shot player, semi-stay-at-home defenseman. To me, that's what you want.
Nanso.
Right shot at home would be my suggestion.
Well, if you could get another, you could get
Let's
another
go
one
get
of those.
one of those.
They're hard to get, but yeah. No, I know what you're saying. But yeah, Nurse is, I think Nurse has been fine the last 4 or 5 games. I agree with you guys. I think he's been one of their steadier guys. He's kind of leading the charge there, and he's always getting a different partner every second game. So I think with all the heat he takes and not having a legit partner to play with him right now, I think he's been fine. So I have no issues with him right now. So, but like Cass said, he's one of those guys that within the game, he can be brilliant for a couple of shifts and then have a big oops moment, and that leads to a goal. So it's always up and down. It's been more up than down with Nurse this year, so hopefully that continues tonight.
Coyote Steve would like Dumba. He thinks that would be a good fit for Darnell Nurse.
Yeah.
Share your thoughts, 780-218-9999. Go ahead if you want to
No,
add
I was
to
just
that.
I was just gonna say I was roommates with Dumba, and no. There's like, and that's not a knock on Dumba. I think just stylistically, I don't think it would be a fit. I don't think stylistically it would be a fit. Yeah,
because Dumba kind of runs around too, so
he runs around a little bit. Yep, and he'll step up on guys trying to lay hits out. He'll play a little aggressive at times, and it just like, again, and I like Dumba and like him as a defenseman. I don't think he'd be a fit for Darnell Nurse.
Okay, fair enough. Cass knows Dumba well, having been his former roommate on the road. Okay, I've seen in the nasty chat, I have seen people discussing Noah Philp, and he had a very good debut for the Oilers in Nashville. He picked up his first point. They get that fourth line goal Cass was talking about a little bit earlier. And that line had a good night among many other players who did in Nashville, which was a nice, refreshing thing to see after that bad loss in Columbus. Now, Noah Philp also was 71% on the dot in his debut, and I think he took 14 faceoffs without referencing the game stats from that night. That's a pretty good start. Now, there's adrenaline, your family's there, all that stuff. Cass, how does Noah Philp go into game two? Because as people are talking about in the nasty chat, like, he's a big right shot center who can win faceoffs, can skate, and he's a bit younger, something this team really doesn't have.
Yeah, something they really don't have, and we talked about that before his first game, in that he has the capacity to bring that for this group, and he has a possibility to, especially for like an aging Derek Ryan, and that's, Derek Ryan has done some wonderful things in his career, found a way to continue to battle and continue to be relevant. Philp brings just that size and that speed element that Derek Ryan maybe doesn't, and the right shot centerman capacity, again, something this team doesn't really have a lot of, a big guy that can skate, that can play in the corners, that can play in front of the net. So he's got the tools to be able to be not necessarily, he's not going to be a McDavid or a Draisaitl, but to be, for a third or fourth line player, to be an impact player in his role and at that position. Now the emotion of playing the first game is over. We want to see more of the same. So we got through that. The team as a whole played very well. So it's going to be a little bit of a different look for him tonight, where it's like that first one's under his belt. Now, maybe the nerves aren't there, but maybe just mentally, the adrenaline's not there the same way either. So I think an important night for Noah Philp to focus, to just try to continue what he began in game one, which was just play a solid game, because he really played a really solid game. So let's see him bring that a little bit more here, guys. But he does have a lot of the tools that this team, looking forward to not just this year, but next year as well, really could use in that third or fourth line centerman position.
And they started that game so well against Nashville that where Knobloch could roll his four lines. So you got into a rhythm, and it wasn't it wasn't a bunch of power plays and PKs where he wasn't seeing the ice. So, and then we'll see how I'm intrigued when the game's tight, guys, how he uses Noah Philp, because he is good on the faceoffs. He's a good two-way guy, but let's see what kind of the trust level's at with Noah Philp when the game is, let's say, 2-2 in the third period, right?
Yeah. I agree with that. Okay. Couple of texts really quickly. This from Troll says, Adam Larson just threw a beauty hit. Man, I missed that guy. Adam Larson would be perfect. CeCe was a fine partner for Nurse. It was Nurse dragging that pairing down. I'll say this. Larson just re-upped with Seattle. I talked to him during the preseason, and he's never coming back. So let's let go.
Shut that door.
Let's get that thought and let it go. It's gone.
It's gone.
Yep.
Is gone. And then Donnie M, who is listening, says, thanks, boys. Jimmy B is awesome. Cass, as you said. May I ask how long he's been an Oiler fan? He wants to know, Donnie M. Because they have the same thought on Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, he's been an Oiler fan. Like he's known my dad since college, so long time.
Long time. And then finally, Norman at Combine says, hey, Matt. He yells it. When are you going to wear the Combine shirt?
You know what? I need to. You know what? I will make the month of November. This is your month, Norm. This is your month. I will wear it this month, and I'll wear it live, and it'll look really good. So we will do it.
Cass, you look really good and sound really good. Another edition of Game Changers. Fantastic as always, my friend. Enjoy the game. We'll catch up with you on the post-game show.
Thanks, guys. Sounds good.
All right. That is Matt Cassian bringing us Game Changers tonight. If you didn't catch it, I will read them to you again. Cass having a little bit of fun with Game Changers on this Sunday. He set the Flames forecheck. They are tenacious, and that has led them to a 6-4-1 record, despite not having a particularly strong lineup on paper. Number 2 for Cass was even more ongoing special teams because they are still last place in the league. Now, the power play has crept up to 27th. I can't believe we're talking about that as a good thing. So, take that with a grain of salt. But the PK at 62.5% through the first 11 games is 32nd. Podkolzin is the third factor for Cass on Game Changers. Podkolzin with the huge fight with Jeremy Lauzon. Caught him on the button. Jack Michaels posted a reverse angle with his call. A little bit of pat on the back. Jack giving himself one of those. Who was the guy that did that in wrestling? Barry Horowitz. Jack loved him, so he gave himself one of those. Always a great call from Jack, but a great angle of the shot. Shout out to Oilers Plus and their fine cameramen. Doing some great work, getting that little tidbit that Oilers fans salivate for. And you can enjoy it going on Jack's social media. But first, like, share, subscribe, our stuff. We would appreciate that very much. I do need to also do this, Hernan, before we get to Pat Steinberg in a few minutes here. We're going to get to the Advantage Sports Medicine Injury Report at Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy. They treat you like the pros. Their multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. Whether you're recovering from an injury or looking to enhance performance, they treat you like a pro using the same locker room approach trusted by the best in the league for the Oilers. McDavid, no update on the timeline. 2 to 3 weeks. Ankle. I did report Thursday that he was on the ice at the downtown community arena in a tracksuit, glove, stick, and helmet and skates, and went out for a twirl to test out that ankle. And then Evander Kane, who was at UFC last night, walking around with Trent Brown, injury lawyer from James H. Brown.
Nice.
Those guys were walking around everywhere. He's LTIR, abdominal surgery. And then Calgary, no injuries. They've managed to stay healthy in the early part of this season. So there you go. McDavid and Kane are the only injuries for your Advantage Sports Medicine injury report. That UFC was awesome.
It was, I was out though, but we, so the place we were, they were playing the hockey game. They wouldn't put it on. So we had, the one of my buddies had the phone. So we had, and just the crowd when Moreno came out. And I love how
it was awesome.
I love how after the fight, he's like, yeah, I'm going to the game Monday, the Oilers game. And everybody went crazy.
Yeah. He was hilarious. Like his post-fight interview in the media area.
Yeah.
He was so funny, man. Like those fighters, my goodness. It was just me and not Derek Van Diest, Rob Tichkowski from Post Media for local media there. Then it was all like just MMA guys. And I know it was a fight night, and so it wasn't a big one. And I know that the card wasn't particularly favorable, talking to Zach to come when it comes to draw-wise. But I'll tell you what, Edmonton turned out. The vibe was great. Lots of dude bros, probably a bunch of fights after last night. I
saw a few on the good old Twitter.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But I could tell you just walk around there and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
You feel these idiots up and they're going to fight tonight. And they did. But the event, how it's run, the sheer entertainment value was phenomenal. I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was my second ever UFC. I went to the 251 Holloway, Frankie Edgar. We had
Max
them
Holloway.
in studio.
Max Holloway.
Yeah. Max Holloway. But we had them in studio at the old shop, and I was filling in for Dusty the day they came in, and I was like, I don't follow UFC. Like one of my brothers does. It is such a well-oiled machine. I appreciate the entertainment value. Press row, I was literally right there. I was 10 feet away from the fighters, and I
saw Titch on TV.
Yeah, I
and
was
the
right
prelims.
beside him after. Yeah, I wasn't there for the prelims. I got there a little bit later on, but the way those fighters interact with the fans, the media, everybody is so much a breath of fresh air compared to what we get from hockey players.
Yeah, it's different, man. But it looked awesome. It was like what I heard was awesome.
Yeah.
I did record it, so I might watch a little bit tonight because I didn't see all the fights. I just saw the last two.
Couple of good ones in there. There was a
Thug
knockout.
Rose.
One of our Canadian boys, Thug Rose.
Yeah.
I wanted her to win because she came into the hangout the one day. She was phenomenal. The crowd was behind her. The crowd was behind Moreno. Moreno messed up. Abazi's right eye, like that cheekbone, man. Like
Every round, I kept looking at is it Albazi?
Albazi.
Yeah, his face just kept getting worse and worse and worse. But it was yeah, it's definitely something else.
And so the UFC, I can't remember the guy's name, but he came out before the last couple of fighters, before Blanchfield and Moreno did their interviews, and he's like, this was the highest grossing fight night ever.
Yeah.
It was just under, it was 16,000 something official crowd, just under 17,000. It wasn't 20,000. It wasn't sold out. There was nobody in the loge section. There were spots that were up top that were empty, and a lot of the suites were empty. But it was a really boisterous, great turnout. Edmonton, be proud, fantastic, as well as the UFC really likes coming here, and they said they're probably coming back with a pay-per-view. So that's how good it's been here.
They got to lower the ticket price.
I'd
like to
much
go.
were they?
They're pretty expensive.
They were.
Man. Like nosebleeds were at least just like the cheapest, $300.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
I like this one from Big Uke. Tony Gazzalo is a huge UFC guy.
Yeah, they
When I saw that,
they
on
had
Twitter,
me. But I looked at my pass, my credential, and I had my name right. But I looked at the thing on the table, and it's like Tony Gazzalo. Well, may as well run with it.
Tony Gazzalo sounds like a fighter, eh?
No way.
Tony.
Thoroughly enjoyed covering it. I would love to see it as a pay-per-view event here, and I know this city province turns out, and it was awesome. So I know it's not for everybody. I recognize that, but I like boxing. I like combat sports. I like fighting in hockey, and I readily admit that these are things that I enjoy. So
it looked like our boy Zacticum had a.
He had a great. I was texting with him. I was texting with him the whole time. So he thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, Nanso, we do need to get to Pat Steinberg shortly here. I do want to remind folks that portions of this hour brought to you by Hudson's, Canada's Pub. You're invited to watch any Oilers game, and they like to run all-day happy hour on game days. Also, they have $5 house draft featuring their new Blueberry Blonde Ale. I had one. It was very good. I can do the fruit beers. Like, I like the raspberry ones. I like especially in the summertime, the peach. There was a peach one that they did, a peachy sour, I think was called. And then this blueberry one I thought was really good. But I can only do one. Some people can have multiple, but they have this blueberry one. It's really, really good. They're Blueberry Blonde. And then you can also book a reservation at Hudson's, Canada's Pub. Or, as the sign says, especially when I'm at the West Ed location, come on in and find a seat. Don't ask the guy on the radio because
that was funny.
I'm busy.
Everybody thought we were the host.
I know.
The host
There's no
of the
maitre d'
restaurant.
here at Hudson's, Canada's Pub. We are back on location at Hudson's, November 21st, Hudson's White. And when we're back at Boston Pizza Westgate, we'll let you know. We were there last week. It was phenomenal. Shout out to Curtis, Tony, and the entire crew there. I saw Steve from Hudson's Bourbon Street. He was in around the ring, but I didn't have a chance to say hi to him from Hudson's. But they're also tremendous. Connor over at White Avenue. So look forward to getting back on location and come join us, won't you? Hudson's, Canada's Pub, proud sponsor of the Oil Stream pre- and post-game show. All right, let's go down to Calgary and hear from our dear friend, Pat Steinberg. Pleased now to be joined by our dear friend from Sportsnet 960, The Fan, Patrick Bartholomew Steinberg, live at the Saddle Dome. Patty, what's going on? How's Cowtown? Do you guys have snow and whatnot?
No, we're beautiful. We are beautiful. A little brisk, but otherwise really, really nice down here. Unseasonable for November 3rd.
Oh,
wonderful.
Send that up here, please. We had snow yesterday, although it did melt today, which was fantastic. So I guess we're good in God's country today. Patty, Flames get the win the other night against the New Jersey Devils. The Devils, I know, I was talking to Sam Kassian, Devils reporter, the other day, and he said that the time changes have gotten to them, and starting the season in Prague and Czechia and all that got to the Devils. But I would say that was probably a pretty impressive win for Calgary on Friday. How would you describe it?
Huge, and for like a number of different reasons. So, first of all, it snapped a losing skid at 4, which is big. If it gets to 5, then they basically wipe out all the good work they did to start the season. So that would be number 1. And then number 2 would be that, they got back to playing the only brand of hockey that's really going to make them successful this year. Like, they have got to be the hardest working team, the most committed team, and kind of like the most detail-oriented team on the ice every single night if they're going to give themselves a chance to win consistently. And that's what we saw through their 5-0-1 start. That's even what we saw when they lost their first 2 regulation games against Carolina and Winnipeg. And then against Vegas and Utah on the road, that stuff completely disappeared. They got rolled up 5-0 and 5-1. Games could have been even more lopsided than that. And they got back to it against a very good New Jersey team that, of course, you'll see there on Monday. And it was impressive because their defensive details were there all night. Their play away from the puck, their management of the puck was there all night. And we had a 0-0 tie almost 55 minutes in. And then the Flames got a nice redirect from Blake Coleman with about 5.5 minutes to go. Scored 28 seconds later to make it 2-0, and they came away with a win that they deserved. They were full marks for, and a night where they outlasted, one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference. So I think just for a lot of mental reasons, it was huge. It snapped a losing skid, which was huge, and I think for the coaching staff, it gives just a little bit more reinforcement of like, hey, when you play the wrong way, you lose, and you lose lopsided. When you play the right way, you can beat anybody. And Tommy, we saw that 3 weeks ago when you and I were watching the game between these two teams at Rogers Place. The Flames stuck with it for 60 minutes. They got down early, and then the dam burst in the third period, and they come away with a 4-1 win. So that blueprint for Calgary in round 1 of the Battle of Alberta, and that blueprint for Calgary against a very similarly talented New Jersey team 2 nights ago, that's what they're going to need to put on the ice tonight.
Patrick, very well said. I don't really, I know the Oiler fans might give me the gears for doing this, but I think it's worth it because I respect players who can play 1,000 games for one franchise over the course of a dozen years or 15 years or so. And Michael Backlund, the captain of the Flames, was celebrated for his 1,000 games. I don't know, in Oilers terms, maybe he's the Craig McTavish who was celebrated here 2 weeks ago into the Oilers Hall of Fame. How would you describe Michael Backlund and what he's meant to the Flame organization?
You know what? This would be I might get more Oilers fans mad at me, but I put him a little bit more akin to Ryan Smith in your market, just in terms of what he's meant to the city and the connection that Michael has with this city. And I know Ryan didn't play, he played in Colorado, he played with the Islanders, but when you think of Ryan Smith, you think of Captain Canada, and you think of him with the Edmonton Oilers. And you think about the connection that Ryan had with that city and how synonymous the two were for, the better part of a decade. And that's kind of what Michael has turned into. Ryan Smith was never the most skilled player on the ice on any given night. He was not the most, he wasn't going to be the game breaker every single night. But he was committed to the organization. He loved the city. He loved being a member of the Oilers. And that's exactly what Michael Backlund has turned into here, is that he is committed to the organization. He loves being a Calgary Flame. He makes a difference in this city and in Southern Alberta with all of his charitable endeavors. And it's a very special connection that Michael has with the city of Calgary. And to get to 1,000 games and become just the 73rd player in the history of the NHL to play his first 1,000 games with the same organization is pretty incredible. And in this market becomes the only player not named Jerome Iginla to have accomplished the feat. And honestly, I think Michael's connection with this city is akin to a lot of other, longtime members of this Flames team. I think it's even, I'd say it's even stronger than what we saw with Mark Giordano when he was the captain here. And Matt Stajan had a really good connection with the city of Calgary and got to 1,000 games, not all with the Flames, but as a member of the Flames. But I look at how Michael Backlund has grown in this market, what he's grown into, the leader he's grown into, the community leader that he's grown into. And yeah, he's not the best player. He's kind of a middle six forward who excels at shutdown roles and excels on the penalty kill. You don't usually see guys like that stay with one franchise. They stay in the NHL. They play 1,000, 1,200, 1,400 games in the league, absolutely. But with one organization, that's so rare. A lot of these guys will bounce around, sign a 3-year deal there, a 2-year deal there, get their big 4-year deal at the age of 29. But, like, they don't stay with the same organization. And that's what Michael's been able to do. And I think, in this market, it was really, really special to see him hit that mark on Wednesday and to see him celebrated for it with the silver stick on Friday.
Patty, that was a beautiful answer, and I'm so glad I asked you about that. And I have a lot of respect for guys that stick it out in Alberta, regardless if it's in Calgary or up here in Edmonton. So I'm glad I asked that. Okay, let's move on now with Pat Steinberg from Sportsnet 960, The Fan, down in Calgary, as we get you set for the Oilers and Flames. Patty, how different is this group compared to the one we saw 3 weeks ago in that win against Edmonton? I know you talked about work ethic off the top, but has this group evolved in the last 3.5 weeks?
I mean, I think there's a few things. First of all, 3 weeks ago when they met, Calgary's power play was a whole lot more of a threat than it has been the last 6 games, where they've gone 0 for over a 6-game stretch. And it got a little bit better against New Jersey. Didn't score, but it looked a little bit more dangerous. So the power play has come way back down to earth here over the last little bit. They continue to struggle killing penalties. And they did a good job against New Jersey on Friday, which is the first night in a while they've done that. And the big thing or a big reason rather why they were able to beat Edmonton 3 weeks ago is because they barely took penalties. They did not allow that power play to really get going. And that game for the most part stayed at 5-on-5, which was huge for Calgary as well. But, in terms of how different they are, otherwise, not really. I mean, okay. Kuzmenko's been moved down the lineup. They've moved they've got Yegor Sharangovich back. He's playing center. The Martin Pospisil experiment at center is ended for the time being. He's moved to the wing. But I mean, Rasmus Andersson was a huge part of that win 3 weeks ago. He's still going great guns. That pairing with him and newcomer Kevin Ball has really been kind of a steadying force for this team. And the goaltending remains strong. Dan Vladar coming off his first shutout of the season against New Jersey. First shutout for either goalie this year. And as a result, they're going to go back to Vladar and end the rotation or the alternation that we've seen. They've gone back and forth with Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf for the first 11 games of the year. In game 12 tonight, Vladar started Friday. He's going to start tonight. And same goaltending matchup that we saw 3 weeks ago. Skinner's numbers versus Calgary really strong. Vladar's numbers versus Edmonton really strong. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually really interested to see what this matchup looks like, because honestly, the game plan Calgary laid out on Friday against New Jersey was super similar to the game plan they laid out 3 weeks ago against the Oilers. Whether it's McDavid or no McDavid, like we'll see tonight, the Flames still know exactly what they need to do if they're going to have a shot against an Oilers team that is superior when it comes to the high-end talent.
Patty, if you need a special teams boost, just play the Oilers. That's definitely a storyline this year. Okay, finally, just what do you expect at the Saddle Dome in the second Battle of Alberta of the year?
I expect a little bit more from Edmonton. They kind of tailed off as that game went along 3 weeks ago. And so they got off to a great start, and Jeff Skinner scored his first. They had a great first period, and then they kind of just let off the gas, and Calgary's brand really frustrated them. So I think the Oilers will be more prepared for what Calgary's able to do tonight. So I do expect a little bit more from Edmonton tonight. And from a Flames standpoint, just knowing how much Rasmus Andersson and Michael Backlund and Mackenzie Weegar and Nazem Kadri et al. Get up for these games, I expect a really committed brand of hockey for Calgary. And I don't expect a blueprint much different than what we saw 3 weeks ago. I don't expect a blueprint much different than what we saw 2 nights ago for the Flames. So it kind of comes down to me whether or not the Oilers are able to deal with Calgary's pressure, the way they stay above you, and the way that they can frustrate you. It'll be up to the Oilers to see if they can handle that a little bit better than they did 3 weeks ago.
Flip a coin and see what happens. That's how the Oilers have been doing it so far this year. Patty, always a pleasure, my friend. Great stuff. Have a great broadcast, big boy, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Tommy. Love you, buddy.
Berg, too. Love him as well. Great guy. He does the Flames pre- and post-game show on Sportsnet 960. The Fan down in Calgary. The Flames line up for tonight. Let's go over those right now, and we'll get you the Oilers as well as some texts as we wind things down. Oh, it is so dark.
I told you,
I'll
man.
go get you a light. Don't worry. All right. For the Flames, Kadri between Zary and Pospisil. Sharon Govich with Huberdeau and Mantha. Backlund between Coleman and Coronado. And then Rooney is in. Kevin Rooney's in with Ryan Lomberg and Andrei Kuzmenko. It's kind of weird seeing Kuzmenko down on the fourth line. He's known as a scorer, and that's not really an ideal spot for
The
him.
bad books, Tom, again with this guy,
Books. Yeah, and I know the Oilers courted him, and a lot of Oiler fans wanted him. Didn't work out. They bounced him out of Vancouver, sent him to Calgary. He's on the fourth line tonight. Well, maybe he gets himself out of the doghouse down there. But tonight he's on the fourth line. On defense for the Flames, Kevin Ball with Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar with Daniel Maramanov, Tyson Barrie with Braden Pahal. Dan Vladar is your starter for the Calgary Flames. Nanso, do you want to read out Oilers lines, or do you want me to read out the Oilers lines? What do you think?
Oh, you can do it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
since
you.
you're on the camera, right?
Oh, all right. Sure. Whatever you want, my friend. For the Oilers tonight, Nugent Hopkins between Skinner and Hyman. Draisaitl with Podkolzin and Arvidsson. Henrique between Janmark and Brown. Philp with Kajula and Perry. On defense, Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Dermott, Kulak with Emberson, Stetcher and Ryan are out. And in goal, it is Stu Skinner. And I'm just going to verify. I mean, I know the team's on the ice for warm-up right now, but not expecting any changes. If you see any, let me know. But that's what we had. Here we go. Yeah, that is the lineup indeed for the Oil. All right, Nanso, some final thoughts from you as we go into this one. You in the dark corner.
Yeah, it's a big game, Tom. I think with the start of October, 5-5-1, not the best, not the worst, definitely. But this team's got to find their groove. They got to get going here. So, and this one's a big one. It's your biggest rival. They beat you up in the first game, and you gotta find a way to kind of do exactly what you did in the last game against Nashville. Because if you do, Calgary won't beat you. Just compare the two lineups, and that's even without McDavid. I'd still pick the Oilers here. So Skinner needs a good bounce back after a bad game in Columbus.
That's fair.
Yeah, and we'll see how this game plays out. Special teams, again, will be a big story, Tom. So it's going to be a fun one. BOA number 2, número 2. And we'll see. We'll
Just
see what happens.
three of those this year. The next one is March 29th here in Edmonton. Good point about the special teams. If you're going, how bad are both teams' special teams, Tom and Hernan? Let me indulge you. The Oilers on the power play, 13.3%. That puts them 27th, 4 for 30 so far this year. The penalty kill, 32nd. 62.5%. No shorties scored. The Flames power play, 5 for 35. That's 14.3%. 24th in the National Hockey League. The PK, 26th at 73% with one shorthanded goal scored. Edmonton, if you're, going, well, how do they do against the Flames and how have they handled them lately? Well, they've won 5 of the last 7 against Calgary, 6-4 in the last 10 total, and Edmonton 3-1 versus Calgary last year, and the Oilers have won 4 straight games at the Saddle Dome, or as some people call it, the Saddle Dump, which is going to be replaced soon because it is a bad barn. Justin says, great show, lads. Thank you, Justin. Troll says, hopefully someone tunes up Lomberg if he's running around like an idiot. Yes, we could see that. Lomberg known to do that. And then Norm in a combine. What's up, Norm? Norm sent a picture in. Those look delicious, Norm. Smoking burgers tonight for the game. Brody sat in the Sportsnet Lounge for $140. Oh, that's a great deal. And Sportsnet Lounge, awesome. I know you're a little bit higher up, but still probably pretty sweet. I hope they gave them, because like Sportsnet Lounge, you get like some food and drink options that come with that. Hopefully they had that there as well. And that's good. And Eden was saying, hey, boys, if we talk about partners for Nurse, what about Luke Shen, depending on how Nashville does, of course. That's an older, slower right shot guy that was on the cusp of losing his NHL job but managed to get a deal with Nashville. I don't know if they just signed him, did they not? I don't think Nashville's going to part ways with him just yet. They want him to be part of the solution.
Yeah, and he's... Is he an upgrade?
Slightly. Kind of.
It's not huge. Yeah, he's older. His best days are behind. And you know, Tom.
I know.
Oilers need legit top 4 guy, which is hard to get. I understand.
Yes.
So
there was discussion in the nasty chat about Benning. I know he's probably going to get traded out of Toronto.
I didn't even know he was still in the league until I saw that.
Matt
trade.
Benning? Yeah, he was stuck in hockey hell, which is San Jose.
Of course, Oiler fans want Matt Benning back.
I like Matt Benning, but I don't know if that happens. I don't know. I don't think so, but who knows? We got a couple of nasty chats I want to get to really quickly before we wind things down here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Calvin C says Oilers being at the bottom of the league for body checks is concerning, even more than Coach Knobloch. Didn't see it as an issue last playoffs. Even more that Coach Knobloch didn't see it as an issue last playoffs. That I understand. I like when teams play physical, in your face, and the Oilers kind of haven't been that way through 11 games. It's not really their style. I'd like to see more of it, to Calvin C's point. The body check totals, it really varies arena to arena, and it varies off-ice officials to off-ice officials in each city. So there's discrepancy there. But overall, I understand what Calvin C's talking about and kind of agree with him, to be honest with you. T-Man says Nuge needs something to get him going. Why not a fight in Cowtown? Better than a hooking penalty. Touche. Smitty the Welder says, you like Matt Benning for what? Definitely not to play defense. I like Matt Benning, Smitty the Welder, because he's a good dude and a serviceable NHL defenseman, in my opinion. I'll leave it at that. Any final words from you, Hernan?
No, let's go.
Let's go.
Keep it locked on EST. We'll be back with the post-game show.
Yes, we will be.
And I promise we'll bring some fire.
Some Latino heat. Battle of Alberta, round number 2 this season. Only 3 of them this year. The next one, March 29th, here in Edmonton. Can the Oilers atone for that bad loss on October 13th? Remember, they had a couple goals disallowed. They had all the momentum. Then the win was out of the sails after those 2 goals disallowed. Can they atone? We shall see down at the Saddle Dome tonight. Big thank you to Patty Steinberg for stopping by. Huge thank you to everybody who watched and listened. Hit that thumbs up button on YouTube if you're watching on your way out. For Matt Cassian and Hernan, the Latino Heat Salas, I am Tom Gazzalo saying enjoy the Oilers versus the Flames. We'll see you on the postgame show. Ciao for now.